What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to 2024. Happy New Year. We are the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast, and we are starting things off with the one to watch for 2024. If you don't know who we are, I am your host as always, Tony Mango, joined as always by Callum Wiggins.
Hello there.
And Robert DeFelice.
Hi.
And as you can tell, I'm still very sick. I don't know why. So you're going to be hearing my nasally voice throughout this whole podcast, trying to not sniffle all that much. Apologize if I do cough or something like that. Not the best way to bring in the new year, but hey, you know what? It could be worse. And that's kind of, if we approach the one to watch and look back on the previous years, that's a good way for us to look at that, is to go, well, we didn't get it right, but it could be worse a lot of different years, because we tend to have a sort of like, it's pretty obvious that these people are people to watch out for, and we're totally right, or we toss out some suggestions and it ends up being the furthest thing from the truth. I'm pretty sure that I've got the worst track record when it comes to being like, I think we should watch for Velveteen Dream this year, and then that's when everything happened. Although, shout out, he put up an apology video today, so, we're a couple years late on this, but I think that I had put Daniel Bryan down the year that he had been forced to retire and all that. So I go into these as like speculative of like, please don't get injured just because I'm putting you on my list or something. I'm pretty sure that you guys have a little bit better of a track record. I should probably actually go back and check to see what, I don't know if I have a list of what you guys had picked last year, but I can at least see what mine were. Do you guys remember who you had picked last year?
Honestly, as sad as it is, I might have picked Bray Wyatt.
This thing's kind of happened.
I went back and watched the video from last year, so I know which all of us picked. It's like our main ones at the very least.
I apparently picked for AEW's women's division Jade Cargill.
That was your overall AEW pick as well.
Yeah,
and she was one to watch.
Just maybe in another company. I had picked Raquel from the WWE women's division, and we saw what she did this year.
She had a back.
I picked WWE's tag team division. I picked FTR because I was assuming that they were going to go over there, and they didn't, so I was totally wrong on that.
Oh, that's right. We did the fun thing last year where I think I said Deanna and Chelsea would be the women's tag team champions.
Who did you pick last year, Callum?
I only have like the main picks that I had for both AEW and WWE. I don't know the minutiae details because I didn't bother to check all that stuff. But my main pick for AEW was Julia Hart.
Not bad pick based off what she did.
And my main pick for WWE was Julius Creed.
Which
fucking Nostradamus over here.
Well, we might be talking about some of the same names this time around. And as we do that, we want you to chime in with your thoughts as always. So if you've got some picks or you want to react to our picks, do so in the comment section below. On YouTube in particular, while you're over there on YouTube, make sure that you're clicking on all the good buttons that you can see on there, never any of the bad ones. Double check that you're subscribed to the channel, hit that little notification bell, hit the like button on this as well, click on the join button, get access to the Pick Your Poison tier, the Darkcast tier, everything over there on the monetary means to support us that you would get over on Patreon as well. I'm currently thinking for this month, haven't quite decided yet, but we had 3 different Royal Rumbles that we were tossing around the idea of doing fan announce tables for, 1994, 2004, and 2014. 2014 is the CM Punk one. Seems like we should do that one. 1994 could be pretty fun. And then 2004, of course, that's the Chris Benoit thing. I know that Guy 123 has been requesting that we would watch that to get our reactions and, kind of talk about that and stuff. So
it's the sad thing is it's a pretty fun match.
Yeah, it's a pretty good Royal Rumble.
We know now about
if you replace Chris Benoit with somebody else, then it becomes like one of the best Royal Rumbles to watch. And up until the point that he did what he did, it was one of the better ones too. So I'm kind of considering maybe one of those, either 94 or 2004, being the Darkcast for this month. I don't know. We're going to have to figure out our schedules and stuff. And maybe both will be. I don't know. We'll figure that out. But you will only get access to that, of course, if you are on the Darkcast tier on there or above. Also, if you want to toss a little spare change our way through the thanks button that's over there, kind of acts the same as like the super chats when you go live on certain things. If you can't get access to that, you're not listening to us immediately on the pay-per-view point post shows. And we don't have a pay-per-view point post show coming up until Royal Rumble, I believe, right? Nothing, no AEW stuff until Revolution. And
I mean, we'll talk about TNA on the hot tags and stuff, but nothing dedicated until Royal Rumble.
Yeah, so toss a little spare change our way through the thanks button there. Pick up some merchandise on Redbubble and TeePublic. Keep that in mind if you want to get a shirt or something along those lines. Lots of different products, lots of different designs. Also, we still haven't talked about it yet, but the fan feedback survey, you still got a little bit of time to fill that out, so go ahead and do that. And that's about out of the way. Let's get into the one to watch. Now, this used to be you pick one person, and it was just for WWE. Well, AEW expanded. We decided to add them into the mix, and then we decided to expand this a little bit further. So the way that we've been doing it the past couple of years has been one to watch for AEW, one to watch for WWE on the women's division, the men's division, and the tag team division. Sometimes we kind of expand a little bit more on that. Last year, and I didn't really necessarily plan on doing it this year, about doing a separate NXT list because I kind of figured we could just put them into WWE. But, if you want to talk about it, talk about it. I usually write down my like top 5 picks and then my like true pick out of it or so. But we'll bounce around. We'll talk about different things. We might have the same names. We might have completely different names. We're going to justify them in whatever way we could see happening. So strap yourselves in for the first podcast of 2024. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Let's get started here with the tag team division. The AEW and WWE sides of this. I honestly didn't have 5 AEW tag teams that I thought were all ready to go for this. I wrote 3 down, and it's actually 3 factions rather than just pure tag teams. And the other 2 spots, I was like, I'm going to leave them blank because I don't think that there are any teams other than these 3 that currently exist that I think would actually have a banner year this year. And for anybody who's wondering about what you mean one to watch, there's all sorts of different qualifying factors. I mean, sometimes we go with more of like who's going to have a breakout performance and really become like going from a nobody to a somebody. Sometimes we go with these people are going to stand out from the pack and be like the top people, even if they're already main eventers or something. We'll explain what we mean for each pick, but like I said, I only had 3 factions down and then 2 blanks. But did you guys come up with 5, or did you just come up with 1, or what's your thought process for AEW tag teams?
Well, I have 1 tag team that I think is poised for a breakout year, and then 2 very well-established tag teams that I think are going to be the most noteworthy to watch. My breakout team is Top Flight, because I think that this is the year they need to be either tag team champions or trios champions with Action and Ready, because I think that they're a phenomenal team.
I think I had them last year, and then Dante Martin got injured, and then I kind of screwed the pooch on that one.
My 2 teams to watch that are like legendary at this point, but still need to be watched. I think this is the year we see Edge and Christian team up, or Adam and Christian, or however the hell we're going to refer to them.
Cage and Cope.
Okay, yeah, Cage and Cope. And I think this is the year that we see something interesting take place with the Young Bucks, because Matt and Nick Jackson are absent from TV right now. Now that the Golden Jets thing has, slowed to a halt, I think there's a feeling of like, oh man, I wish they just would have went with the Young Bucks. There's also the feeling of, what's this KTB wrestling trademark? Is it just the gimmick that they're going to do, or are they doing their own show? This is going to be an interesting year for the Young Bucks, I think. But they're probably my overall one to watch for tag teams in AEW.
I do not have either of those, or all 3 of those names on this list. Do you have any of them on yours, Callum?
I have Top Flight written down as a potential one of mine. But But yeah, I tend to always try and lean towards ones which are non-super highly established, at least in the company at this point in time, because I don't think that it's particularly interesting to say things like the Young Bucks, because surprising, the Young Bucks are going to do something in 2024 like they did something in 2023 and 2022 and 2021. So everyone's open to whatever choice they want to go for, but it's just that doesn't have any sort of appeal to me to go with one that's like, oh yeah, someone that always does something every year is probably going to do something again this year.
That's fair.
Yeah, two different approaches. Who are some of the teams that you have on your list, though?
So I only had like 3 names written down. Obviously, Top Flight already mentioned. Gates of Agony as a tag team. And when you talk about AEW, you're also trying to incorporate a bit of Ring of Honor in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's basically the same as like the NXT being factored into the WWE side of it.
Yeah, so I imagine it's like they will have a decent run as at least the Ring of Honor tag team champions. If not, have that burgeon into the main roster as well as already the trios champions for Ring of Honor. But I think they could probably do more. As a tag team. I mean, at the back end of last year, they were wrestling in the New Japan tag team tournament, so maybe there's clear sign of, okay, we can start putting these guys by positioning these guys a bit stronger moving forward, and I think they're quite young as well, so they're probably getting better. But my main choice for the AEW tag team is Aussie Open.
They were a team that I almost put down, but then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, it seems like they're just kind of separating Kyle Fletcher from Mark Davis.
I think that's just due to the fact that Mark Davis has suffered a few injuries in 2023, and so I'm hoping that they can come back together without the same level of injuries affecting them. I think that Fletcher and Davis will be out of the Don Callis family pretty soon after Will Ospreay arrives in AEW, and then Aussie Open will be aligned with Ospreay moving forward.
And I don't know whether that be Don Callis' family just goes to Takeshita Hobbs, so then maybe if they want to add any more people in there.
Oh yeah, I mean, I imagine the Callis family will be done by the midpoint this year.
I mean, the Hardy family lasted forever, so
like 2.5 years or something. Yeah.
No, it's a really good pick. I didn't think about Aussie Open because Kyle Fletcher is so focused on being a single right now, and I don't know the timetable for Davis's return.
So was Aussie Open your main pick, or was that still your honorable mention?
No, that's my main pick.
Okay. So I had put down on my list, I think that this is going to be a good year for Bullet Club Gold to finally win some kind of tag team titles or something. Maybe even incorporate some more people into the ranks. I think that we're going to get a continuation of Blackpool Combat Club still being like the top faction and sticking around a lot longer than the other ones that we've seen, because realistically speaking, look at the factions that have been in AEW. We've had a lot of very short time factions, a lot of ones that really don't matter. Who cares about the whole the Nightmare Collective type things or whatever. But out of our big core groups, the Elite get together, they spend a couple months together, and then they break up again. It keeps happening over and over. The Pinnacle was absolutely nothing. The Inner Circle lasted quite a while, but they eventually disappeared. Jericho Appreciation Society collapsed this year. Blackpool Combat Club seems to be still going really strong. And I think that they're going to keep cementing themselves as okay, that's the top faction in AEW history. Maybe a tag title run. Maybe a trios run for them. At least some kind of belts are going to go their way. But I think the main...
what they have, they're the names they have are so good that it's almost like late stage DX, where Sean and Hunter were never going to break up again because they're established main eventers, and then they can always just come together when they need to.
Yeah, but I think that they are not showing any signs of slowing down. So that's really good.
I mean, one of them is definitely retiring this year.
And yet he still is just like going out there trying to kill himself.
That is true.
But it's an obvious pick and an easy pick and all. I wrote down whatever they end up calling this faction. That's Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, Wardlow, and the Kingdom. If you've got these guys all in the mix here, the Devil's Rejects or whatever they call themselves, Adam Cole could end up winning the world title this year. Roderick Strong could end up being the TNT champion, or, Wardlow could win that belt. Roderick Strong could win the international championship. Matt Taven and Mike Bennett could win the tag titles. They could do a trios tag title run with Bennett, Strong, and Taven. They could do all sorts of different things. And I think that despite how I'm hesitant to trust that this is going to go over as well as they think it's going to, based off of like how you're going to keep the steam up with MJF being gone, I think that we're going to end up getting some gold going their way. So those that collective, whatever they call themselves right now on the 2nd of January, we don't know. That's going to be my tag team pick from AEW.
Yeah, I think it's obviously I love Adam Cole and Roddy and the Kingdom, and Wardlow is also there in a role that I think probably best suits Wardlow. He never did anything better than when he was MJF's heater, and now he can be that for Adam Cole. I'm dreadfully disappointed in and this is because I had to watch the scrum, you guys didn't. But by the end of the scrum, it sort of felt like no one's talking about Adam Cole. We'll worry about that on Wednesday when we get going again. But so I felt that it was a little flat, but I'm glad that, the devil was revealed. And for the most part, it was about everything I expected.
We'll see what happens on Dynamite too. For all we know, it might end up being like it all comes crashing down, and I'm like, God damn, I got 1 day's worth of this. On the WWE side of it, though, I do have a few more than on the AEW one that are in my honorable mentions. I think we might get a pretty decent year for the Latino World Order, especially if they sort out like who's in the ranks, because Dragon Lee's sort of in and sort of not, and yeah, this is kind of strange. I think that we're going to get tag titles for DIY this year, but they wouldn't be my go-to pick. I am fully expecting Damage Control, whether it's the Kabuki Warriors or some other variation of it. They are beating KC and KC for those women's tag titles. I don't know if I can really give them like the one to watch for the year, because it's just the women's tag titles. They don't really care too much about them in the grand scheme. So they're going to give them those belts, but then they probably aren't going to do too much with them. And I had 3 other teams, despite how it's top 5, because I was like one / the other one. I don't really know. We haven't seen what's going on with AOP yet. And I was debating between either them or A-Town Down Under for like, okay, future tag title run. AOP could be a total flop.
Well,
but
be nice this year.
No, go for it. Why not?
No, I was gonna say, well, look who they're being paired with. But I like Cross. It's just I don't know if the company likes carrying Cross. Shout out to us though, Tony, because we looked at a man's silhouette and said, Paul Ellering?
Right.
I think that's Paul Ellering. So I'm actually super excited for this idea of Scarlett, Cross, AOP, and Ellering. However, if this doesn't connect, then I'm ready to say that maybe it's just not going to work out for Cross and WWE.
I think it's kind of a last chance thing, yeah.
But I really do like everybody involved, so I'm hoping it's a cool, fun faction.
But I'm still going to put them on the back burner and say my pick is Callum's pick from last year to a variation. I'm going to go with the Creed brothers. I think that they are already putting them in a position to be a top tag team. I think they're definitely winning tag titles this year, especially if we get a brand split thing again with those belts, which, I mean, it's seemed like it should be happening for well over a year, and it just hasn't quite yet. So maybe this time around we will. And then if that's the case, they're definitely winning those tag titles.
We've crossed the half-year mark, or at least close to it, with all the belts changing their appearances. I'm surprised we haven't gotten definitive, undisputed WWE tag team titles. But my pick is also your pick. I think the Creed brothers are going to have a tremendous 2024. I think they're just a really solid tag team, and WWE loves them. And they're positioned like, you know how like old Hogan era babyface tag teams were, where it's just like, yay, the Creeds are here, and they don't even need to be friends with Cody Rhodes. They're just gonna do the right thing. Like, I really like everything about the way they're presented.
Like the Steiner brothers or the Smoking Guns or something.
Yeah, it's like they're just good guys for the sake of being good guys, and I think that's an underutilized thing in 2024.
I haven't gone with the Creed brothers again because I just felt that it was too obvious for that one. Not that there isn't like it's one of the issues with the WWE and AEW stuff this year, because they're so, for the most part, pretty competently and predictably booked. It means that it's hard to pick someone who's kind of come up from out of nowhere, because you can kind of see the patterns in place about who's likely to do well and who isn't going to do well. I mean, I have like DIY putting down as a potential option, Pretty Deadly, if they can get some consistency behind them and stay injury free for the most part. I've put in like brackets the Usos. I think there's probably a good percentage chance that the Usos are back together by the end of the year.
I think so too. I could very well see Jimmy and Jay having their match at WrestleMania and hugging at the end of it.
Mm. And then the two main choices I have, just in like the runner-up spot, is Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. Because
you're just assuming that it's Tyler Bate on Friday?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, same here.
So, and then I assume that I think they'll be pushed reasonably well, because this is now a very firmly Triple H centered booking philosophy. So he pushed these two well in NXT, so I don't see any reason why they wouldn't do so as a tag team. But the main one would be Austin Theory and Grayson Waller as a tag team.
A-Town Down Under.
Yeah.
Man, I like A-Town Down Under a lot. I really hope that they just go all in with them, because they can be like a modern New Age Outlaws. And look, in the modern eye, you don't hear a lot of people talking about New Age Outlaws. But for that era, people think they're like Mount Rushmore.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's firmly my shit, you know? Like, New Age Outlaws are always going to be in my top tag team list for sure.
I would say with the proviso in that I don't think they're anything special. Like, they're just, they're a fine heel tag team act, but they'll be pushed way above their station because they finally found something for Theory to do. And so they're going to try and utilize that and try and use this as a springboard for him, and like have Waller carry the act. And eventually, probably, I don't know whether it'll happen this year or wait into next year, that Fury will turn on Waller or something, or Waller will turn on Fury. Fury can turn babyface off the back of it and hopefully try and launch him into the single star they've always hoped he would be. But in order for that to happen, I think they probably need to win the tag title at some point this year.
A lot of this depends on if they split those belts. Because just having twice the opportunity means twice as many people can actually do something. Otherwise, they're just going to continue to keep it on some big cross-promotional, Judgment Day type act. And I guess we're going to have to find out about that soon enough. But let's pivot over to the women's division if you guys have no other tag. Do you have any other tag team stuff to talk about?
Well, No, the one thing I do want to say is the tag titles are in a weird spot where they are consistently the main event of the shows, but it's only because the last 3 tag team champions were the Usos, who were linked to Roman, and 2 pairings of top tier talents. I wonder if the belts go back to the Creed brothers and then it becomes, I don't know, this week they're going to fight Tozawa and Otis. And then you're just like, tag team wrestling goes back in a rut.
Probably.
Like I said, that is also something to look out for.
I think that's almost inevitable. But hopefully in a way that it's like, okay, cool. The tag team divisions are cool, as opposed to it being groups of main event guys in tag matches. And then we can get, tag team division stuff can be done really, really well, and it can main event on its own if you do it good enough. And Triple H seems to understand that a lot better. Look at the tag teams that we used to get with Black and Gold NXT, I'm hoping for that. Let's go over to the women's division, both AEW and WWE. AEW, I have down, I assume Athena and Billy Starks are just going to be the 2 that dominate the scene in Ring of Honor, so they're in my honorable mentions. I still have Willow Nightingale down as one of my top honorable mentions because I thought last year that she was going to break into that like upper echelon. She didn't quite do it, but I think it's like it has to happen this year. It really comes down to 2 names for me though. And I'm pretty sure that these are going to be names on both your lists. Mariah May, as far as somebody who we know is on the roster for sure. And I think Mercedes Moné is going to go there, and she's going to be their big focal point this year. So she's ultimately my AEW woman to watch is Mercedes Moné, with that little caveat of like, technically she's not on the roster right now. So if you say that disqualifies her, it would be Mariah May.
By the time some of you are listening to this for the first time, she may very well be on the roster. And if she is, I think she's a fantastic one to watch. I hope that we see more names like Yuka Sakazaki, Emi Sakura. They're still technically on the roster. I want to see them back in the mix. But my one to watch for the women overall is going to be Abaddon. I want to see some consistency with Abaddon. Look, I think Mariah May is great, but I'm going to save that for my friend who I'm sure is going to gush about Mariah May. If Callum doesn't, then I made a huge mistake. But I really want to see more from Abaddon this year. I think they did great with the Julia program, and I think they can continue doing more great stuff if given the opportunity, and I want to see consistency.
I think that Abaddon's chances went up in smoke after that match at the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I'm not having a lot of faith in Abaddon this year.
We'll see, but I can understand where you're coming from.
I admire the optimism, though.
That's what I bring to this channel.
Mm.
I mean, my one's basically like written to repeat what Tony said for the most part. Most of the names that he mentioned are the ones that I've got written down. I've got Athena written down, Billy Starks, Willow Nightingale, and the 2 main ones are Mariah May and Mercedes Moné, because when Mercedes comes in, the whole women's division is going to revolve around her, because essentially, or at least based on the monetary things that have been speculated, you kind of have to at that point if you're going to be paying as much as it's going to be speculated that she will get paid. Like,
you need that return on investment, baby.
Yeah. If you're going to pay that much, then you've got no choice than to like build the entire program around her, which is probably the best thing for the women's division as a whole. Because if you sign someone on that massive amount of money, then you have to push that division, because like otherwise, what was the point of buying it in the first place, or buying her in the first place? Mariah May is just because there's an obvious storyline in place between her and Tony Storm. You can use Tony Storm's current popularity as a catapult to launch Mariah May into being a top star moving forward. So, and as based on what I've seen from her in Stardom and other avenues beforehand, she's clearly got the wrestling ability to back up her to back up that level of push. So I have no doubt that she'll be able to step it up once she is given that given the ball to run with. The only other person I had listed down is Jamie Hayter, because I still feel pretty confident Jamie Hayter's winning the women's title at Wembley Stadium, or at least like she will be. If she'll either be women's champion by the time Wembley Stadium happens, or she'll win the title at Wembley Stadium.
I think that's one of those. If that doesn't happen, I'll be really shocked type of moments. Now, WWE side, a few honorable mentions. I think that we're going to see Cora Jade and Nikita Lyons both be NXT Women's Champion this year. I think Tiffany Stratton is going to move up to the main roster. But I think both Julia and Camille are going to sign with WWE this year. And without knowing for sure if they are or not, and how they approach doing that and when they sign them and all that stuff, it's hard for me to make them my true one to watch without just going with the pretty obvious thing of, hey, Jade Cargill. I don't even need to explain it. Like, they're going to push her. She probably will end up winning the Royal Rumble. Might end up winning the championship of WrestleMania. Even if she doesn't win the Royal Rumble, I think that's like the safest bet.
Before I get to the obvious, which is my overall pick, and rinse and repeat what Tony just said, I would like to throw out there, I still like Sol Ruca. I will always like Sol Ruca until she's proven not to be great. I hope she comes back and absolutely kills it.
Good chance of it.
I think there's a solid chance that we do see some free agency movement with one Deonna Purrazzo. I called it last year. Impact picked up the contract, the option year, and I'm going to call it this year. There's no reason that this woman should not be at or near the top of any card in any promotion. If AEW manages to get her and Mercedes, they're winning. But I think Deonna Purrazzo, Royal Rumble, perhaps. I like Cora Jade a lot. I want to see Roxanne go to the main roster. Look, that's for me. That could be one to watch. Is when the hell are we going to move her up to the main roster? What else is there for her to do in NXT?
Yeah, she needs to go up.
I'd like to see Meiko Satomura return. I'd like to see just overall growth for talents like Lyra Valkyria, who is in the middle of kind of a mid-championship run, Like, I'd like to see more for her. I'd like to see, Nikita Lyons get back out there. But obviously, win, lose, or draw, regardless of what brand she's on, even if she fucking fails, the one to watch is Jade Cargill.
Mm-hmm.
Because, again, even if she fails, it's a big deal. Because she was a signing from AEW, the first AEW homegrown name they picked up, and it's going to be all eyes on her no matter what she's doing.
I haven't put Jade Cargill was my choice. I haven't even listed her as the thing because I'm still firmly of the belief that she's not going to debut prior to SummerSlam this year. I mean, when I say debut, I don't think she's going to wrestle a match prior to SummerSlam this year. So I think it'd be difficult for her to do something particularly noteworthy at that point. My mindset is that she's going to immediately be given the Omos treatment of when she does finally get on TV, she's just going to be beating jobbers in squash matches in a minute, 2 minutes, and she won't be put into a position of any real prominence until much later in the year.
Hey, it worked for her over there.
the other ones that I have listed, or Tiffany Stratton will go up this year. I'm pretty certain. I don't know if that will immediately to like championship gold, but she'll probably be on the main roster at the very least. Probably, maybe potentially even as soon as the Royal Rumble. I think there's a good chance Fallon Henley probably wins the NXT Women's title this year. I seem to like her, and the whole splitting of that trio with Josh Briggs and Brooks Jensen means that she'll probably be positioned a bit more as a single star moving forward. So we'll see if that like bears any fruit. I've had Julia listed down, but I don't think that I would make her the one to watch, even if she does get signed, because I don't think that she's going to be pushed towards any major title. Because even though she's very good, they wouldn't do that until people are aware who she is, and they probably won't do that for over a year or so. She'll come in and she'll be like part of whatever the faction is with Io Sky and Asuka and whoever. I put Deonna Purrazzo down as any potential free agent signing. I think she's the one that has the most potential to just hit the ground running and become a world champion pretty soon after debuting.
Yeah, she is. There you go.
But again, this one may feel like a little bit either obvious or like a big name that I'm going to be going for. But someone who hasn't been positioned as like the top name for a while, my one to watch is Bayley.
So I think she's winning. I'll spoil.
I think she's winning the Royal Rumble.
I think she's winning the Royal Rumble.
I don't want to spoil exactly what I'm going with there, but I've got her as one of my 3 possible options for the Royal Rumble for sure.
So I laid out, and obviously I won't do it here, but I laid out how I would do WrestleMania to Tony yesterday, and the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, and Bayley wins the Rumble and faces Io for the title, and probably wins because, believe it or not, Bayley hasn't had a singles match at WrestleMania. And moreover, she hasn't won anything since the pandemic WrestleMania. So they should get on that.
I think the injury to Charlotte Flair has opened the doors to possibilities that weren't previously going to be explored, or at least not at the same prominence that they currently are. I'm now feeling as stronger as I ever have that Io Sky is going to walk into WrestleMania as the women's champion. And I think that they should capitalize on the Bayley thing and try and utilize the same kind of feel-good thing that Sami Zayn had. And whether it happens at WrestleMania or whether it happens later on in the year, I think they're going to try and position Bayley in the same way they position Sami Zayn as part of the bloodline. So they might try and stretch it out toward later in the year for that to happen. Because, there's a very real possibility that they just hit default mode and just say, okay, Bianca Belair versus Io Sky at WrestleMania. Just because it's Bianca Belair, so she has singles match and wins title at WrestleMania. That's kind of what the last 2 or 3 years have been like. But I'm hoping that they decide to go with a babyface Bayley as someone that they treat prominently this year and make a big deal. Especially if they are making Mercedes a big deal over in AEW. It would kind of make some kind of poetic sense to have Bayley being the top one, or at least one of the top people positioned on the WWE side of things.
So again, lots of things have changed my mentality over the last couple weeks, and especially over the last 24 hours. I think that we might even see Ripley just beat Becky in Australia. And I think there's a small chance, but I think we could end up getting Bianca and Ripley.
I'm currently thinking Rhea retains her title in the Elimination Chamber in Australia, obviously, because they wouldn't do that another time. The whole the Jade Cargill thing, the Bianca Belair thing, obviously Charlotte's out of the mix now. Io, Bayley, Becky, Rhea, there's only a few names to talk about because it's realistically, it's not going to be like Maxine Dupre in the title hunt.
Are you sure?
Pretty sure. But the likelihood that they could do Io Bayley and Becky Rhea, it's just a matter of, well, then what do they do with Bianca? Because she's the only one that they would really need to figure something out. Maybe they do Bianca Jade in a special featured extra match, non-title kind of a thing. Or maybe we get some kind of triple threat match with Bayley, Bianca, and Io just to get Bianca in there. Or, it's like, I think soon enough we're going to have the full picture, and then we're going to be like, okay, it's obvious that they were going in this direction. As opposed to it being like one of those years where we don't know what's happening, they don't know what's happening, and then they just go with something like, Brock Lesnar versus Omos, where it was just like, what? Okay, they didn't have that in mind until that day, kind of a thing. But Bayley's a good pick. Let's move over to the men's division for the AEW side of things. And I've got some pretty obvious ones here, so I'm not breaking any, super interesting ground here, but I think Adam Cole's got a good chance to be a world champion this year. Bryan Danielson, of course, is going to do good stuff. Swerve Strickland, I think, has a good chance of becoming a world champion. I keep putting Daniel Garcia down because I keep hoping that he is going to be like, this is when they finally do what with him that they've been wanting to do for a while. But I think the obvious pick is Will Ospreay, for all the reasons that we keep talking about. He's winning that belt in London. If he doesn't, it's like a weird mistake, I think.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Ospreay feels a little on the nose, but again, I picked the Bucks for my tag team. One to watch, so who am I to talk? I think Swerve is, of course, one to watch this year. He could become the first Black world champion. I think on the opposite end of the spectrum, Keith Lee will be one to watch in terms of like, okay, what's he doing this year? Malachi Black sounds like one to watch in the sense that people always talk about him wanting to leave there. So, who knows what this year will hold in that regard. And up until this morning, I would have said Kota Ibushi's one to watch, but I think that has changed significantly with the ankle injuries he's suffered. And the more I think about the names, I'm going to go with Adam Cole. I think I've said it every year since he's arrived, but I want to see Adam Cole as the world champion by the end of this year.
I think there's just from my perspective, I think there's like zero chance Adam Cole's world champion this year. I think that his whole thing is going to be wrapped up with MJF, and that's the reason why I wanted to be the case, because I'm hopeful that means that MJF will be out of the title picture for the whole year as well. Just I think it's necessary to after he's been the champion for so long, to just keep him away from the belt for the whole of 2024, and that the thing that will occupy him for that purpose will be Adam Cole instead. So yeah, I mean for me the obvious choices, the three obvious ones for me are Swerve, who I'm absolutely convinced will be a world champion at some point this year. Ospreay, because of course he'll be pushed immediately. He's one of the most coveted stars. He's the best wrestler in the world right now. So of course they're going to try and exploit that as best they can and utilize him in the best possible way. I think Daniel Garcia is pretty much a lock for this year to do well. I know we've kind of said that in the past, but I think that they've really kind of concentrated on him as a personality through the Continental Classic. And like he's got a bit more of a depth and more dimension to him this year than like previous years, where it's just like, is he a wrestler or a sports entertainer and the dance gimmick? Now he's got now they've like had him go through this journey of discovering what his level is at and how he's going to be able to get past a certain level and realize his full potential. And I think that the Continental Classic was the launching pad for that to happen. Again, could be proven wrong because he has had false dawns in the past, but I think that now we'll see him certainly cemented in the mid-card role as like a potential long-term international champion or continental champion, or however approach they want to take with that. But a few other ones I had listed. I think Ethan Page will be Ring of Honor World Champion at some point this year.
Good shout.
Even with the whole Triple Crown thing going on?
Yeah, they'll figure out something for it. That'll just be what I would imagine, just because I think that he's been positioned as a top guy in Ring of Honor. I think El Hijo Kingo will be officially signed to AEW this year. I don't know whether he'll do a huge amount on his own, but I think that he might be the center point of a Lucha Trios team that is like the champion for ages. I kind of just want like a Lucha Trios team or Top Flight and Action Drake to just win the Trios titles and then just have like super fun matches like every other week on Dynamite or Collision. Moving forward with just other high flying teams and just leave it like that as your Trios division. I think Brody King will cement his position, which what most people probably are in the boat of right now, as being like the center point of the House of Black. I think that his ceiling and his ability far exceeds both Buddy and Malachi's.
Depending on the contract stuff, I could see potentially Buddy and Malachi not being here by the end of the year.
Yeah, definitely. I think Big Bill will eventually separate from Ricky Starks and go on his own, and I think that out of the two of them, it's interesting because Starks is clearly the biggest star, but I also think there's a good chance that Starks won't be in AEW. Honestly, like much longer.
That. I'm glad you answered it on your own.
Yeah, I think that's whenever his contract's up, I think he's leaving too.
Yeah, but I think Big Bill will stay, and I think Big Bill could be pushed towards a title picture moving forward because he's been very impressive since he signed with AEW. And my other one, which is the outside one, which is the one that I'm toying, I probably will end up going with one of the more like standard, like obvious picks because they're just like, I think pretty much like locks at this point. But the one that I'm hopeful for to see something out of this year is Anthony Bowens.
Why him?
Wasn't anticipating that one.
Bowens is I think his ceiling is much higher than Max Caster's. He's clearly a significantly more polished worker than Caster is. I think that he's got personality about him that is, I don't say he's undercut by Caster, but it's enhanced by Caster's rapping. But I think that the crowd, especially he's been cutting more promos. He has a bit more depth and character to him. I think as much as Caster is good, I think he's pretty one note. Like he's just, comedy rap guy. Whereas I think Anthony Bowens could reach a different level or like find different ways to connect with the crowd. I think that his story also about being like obviously and so like his background and like the fact that he is a gay guy, you can utilize that as a springboard of like, okay, they're pushing a guy because you don't really see those people. Well, I say those people, that's like hard for you to do, but you don't see that sort of representation at a top level because we've had things like Sonny Kiss and you have like Sonya Deville in WWE gets pushed to a degree, but I don't think he'll be world champion at any point this year, but I think that he could be a TNT champion at some point. I think that out of all the people in the Acclaimed right now, I think that he's the one that would be the big breakout star of it. I don't think you'd have to even split the Acclaimed. I just think that I always like to try and push the idea of keep people as part of these collective groups, but just have them go on singles runs occasionally. I think Bowens is the right choice for that. He's the one that I'd want to see out of all the names listed outside of obviously. No, because
like Ospreay is like too obvious at all.
Yeah. Obviously, Ospreay's going to get pushed. You don't sign Will Ospreay and not push him. And Swerve has done great stuff. But out of all of them, I think he's the one that I'd go with. I'd really like them to do something with this guy, but I'm not 100% convinced they will. But I hope that they see the potential that I see in Bowens.
I'd totally be down for it.
I'm gonna switch my pick actually, because my one to watch for all the reasons is gonna be Kyle O'Reilly, because I want him back. I miss Kyle. I think that he's one of those guys, and AEW is chock full of them. They've got a roster full of people who were taken for granted throughout major portions of their career, and I want to see Kyle O'Reilly win a championship of any kind in 2024.
It's surprising that none of us mentioned Jay White.
Well, no, see, I think that they know what they have. I think he just hit at the wrong point.
I think there's a good chance that Jay White is like international champion or something at some point this year. I just don't think that he'll be.
That he should be champion now, like by Double or Nothing. He should be holding gold. He's an international superstar. He just headlined the Tokyo Dome last year. Why? Go ahead.
I would say that, my standing of it be a case of I don't think he'll be any more of a star in 2024 that he has already been in 2023. The only difference would be that he might win a title, but I don't think that necessarily like makes him a bigger deal if he wins the international title. For me, he's not going to win a world title this year. So I think that's the next level for Jay White. I think he's already in a position where he could win. After what he's done in 2023, he could win the international title, the TNT title, or any other championship. People just say, "Oh yeah, that makes sense."
Yeah, he's just getting the confirmation of it.
Yeah, he should be a champion at some point this year.
Now, what are your WWE men's picks? Rob, start us off. Who do you got?
And listen, I want to just put this out there. I know a lot of my picks have been rather safe and dull for this one, but it's mainly because I feel like there's not a lot of chances being taken in pro wrestling right now, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but everything feels kind of gamesy. I am going to say that my one to watch for the men is going to be, fuck it, I'll do it. I really think Obafemi has something, and people are immediately connecting with something, and I think he could end up being an explosive hit. In the same way I thought Braun Breaker was going to be an explosive hit, and then they stalled him all 2023, where I feel like he's lost a lot of that steam. I think Trick Williams is going to have a great year. I think over on the main roster, Santos Escobar can rise through the ranks. I think the best is yet to come for Logan. I think there's a lot of people who had the potential to do great things, but in trying to have an eye on the future, I think I can see Obafemi being their next killer. I don't think Goldberg-esque, because then like it puts unnecessary pressure on him. But like that level of explosive star. And I really want to see WWE create some new stars. Because, and I talked about this with Tony off the air, like I understand the idea that we cannot confine people to like, oh, well, you're 35 and you didn't make it. Sucks to suck. Get out. I understand that. But at the same time, when something that I know Tony is very much expecting for WrestleMania being LA Knight takes the US title from Logan Paul, I'm kind of like, yeah, but can we get like another guy around the age of Logan Paul so that we have a future to build off of? The Rock is fucking great, but the fact that The Rock 20 years later still has to come back and get the biggest pops because we're not making any real stars. We're not making any real stars. CM Punk had to leave all of it for 10 years for people to go, I don't know, I guess he's a star. He gets pretty good reactions for the same fucking reactions he was getting in 2011. I'm sorry, I don't know where this is coming from. I just got patched it randomly. But like, yeah, it's been killing me lately that like there's not a lot of young stars. So let's take one of those NIL guys. Hopefully they become something and make the next big thing out of them. And right now, because he's the main one I see, I'm going to go Obafemi.
Not a name I was expecting to hear.
I mean, I almost put him on mine as well. I thought that in a Vince McMahon-led WWE, he'd be on the main roster by post-WrestleMania.
I think he could be in a Triple H-led WWE as well.
Oh yeah, but my mindset of the reason why I haven't put him as a potential option for my one is that I think the Triple H will take his time with him. I think he sees potential there. He's obviously got a great look and he's got a great amount of power, but I think they'll probably just go, okay, let's give him like a Baron Corbin treatment in NXT, maybe for a little bit.
More of a slow burn.
Yeah, exactly. Just like having beat other guys for a little while and then maybe eventually pushing towards like a North American title. It's the thing with like Baron Corbin is Baron Corbin had his rise in NXT at a point when they didn't have a mid-card championship.
Yeah.
So he never got a chance to win that title, which he almost certainly would have won if the possibility was there. But maybe Obafemi will get there at some point. I mean, let's see if he even wins this breakout tournament first before we decide one way or the other.
We'll find that out tonight. So, I mean, tonight might be the indicator of like massive success coming, or it might just be like, well, he put up a good fight against that Riley Osborne. Riley Osborne, for that matter, might be somebody to watch out for too.
Other names I have listed, like from the NXT side of things, I mean, there's the obvious one. Trick Williams will be world champion at some point this year.
Should be
in NXT. So it's pretty obvious. I think they will push Duke Hudson. I don't know in what capacity, but I think they will push him as a singles guy moving forward. I think he's shown enough versatility in this role in Andre Chase University that they should actually give him an opportunity to move further forward. He's definitely nowhere near as just, generic guy as he was when he first debuted in NXT. I'm kind of on this, as I'll talk about a bit later on when I look at more like the main roster side of things, but I'm kind of spotting the breakout stars of tag teams, and I think the Bronco Nima will outgrow Lucian Price pretty quickly. He's a bigger guy, he's a better wrestler, and I don't think that Out the Mud will necessarily do that much as a tag team, but he's clearly out the two of them, the one that's got the most obvious potential. And then the other big name for the NXT side of things will be Josh Briggs.
Yes.
Yeah.
He'll do really well, I think. Now they are like definitively separated. I can definitely see him, like, if they decide to go heel with him and make him more serious, the guy that dethrones Trick Williams at some point or is NXT champion at some point this year.
I'm hoping
they clearly
so.
see a lot in him. Then on the main roster side of things, you got Santos Escobar. We'll see how that goes. I have to mention Andrade's going to WWE, so we'll see if he gets pushed back to a level. I've also put like Aleister Black and Buddy Murphy down as well, potentially, depending on which ones are available to go over.
By the way, Andrade did just about 15 minutes ago while we were recording this tweet out his official goodbye to AEW and thank you tweet. So yeah, he's fully gone and likely going to WWE.
The ones are like a bit more interesting. I think Jey Uso. I think there's a good chance Jey Uso's like Intercontinental Champion at some point in 2024.
I can see it too.
But Ludwig Kaiser, as just an individual, because they are going to Germany at some point this year, and I think that he might get pushed up to a certain level. I don't know what that necessarily means, because I just think that they do more with him as part of the Imperium trio than Giovanni Vinci. I think they might try and do something with him, but I don't know if that, because he's not going to win the Intercontinental title, but I don't know, maybe he'll just like, if you push Gunther towards the world title, then maybe he would be more of a second in command, a more definitive second in command, and be beating other people at a certain level. Maybe he would get in more Intercontinental title opportunities or something of that ilk. Because I don't really see Imperium, even though I'd like to see it, I don't see Imperium winning the tag titles this year. Then the three other names put down, the same as last year, I put Julius Creed. Because I agree with you guys, they probably will win the tag titles this year. And the reason why I haven't gone with the Creed brothers is I think they will win the tag titles this year, but I also think that Julius Creed will separate himself out as the single star of the two. I think that it just becomes more obvious with every time that I see the pair of them that Julius Creed has Kurt Angle potential. Not to, obviously, that's putting a lot of pressure on him. You can't just be one of the greatest to ever do it, but he's the one out of the two of them that has that single star potential. And Brutus would just end up, being in a tag team with Otis probably next year.
You know what's so funny is I was thinking the same thing. It's kind of hurty like that though. Like it's just that's kind of what WWE does.
Butterball Boys or something.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say.
I think it's about time that obviously Bron Breakker gets onto the main roster and does stuff. So that'd be a big one. But I think maybe just the main choice that I'll go for this, and it feels like a bit of maybe a cop-out one. Sami Zayn. And I think that Sami Zayn should be, and hopefully will be, world champion by the end of 2024.
If not by the end of 2024,
at least maybe be in position to get there in 2025.
Maybe he wins the Royal Rumble for 2025 and wins at a Mania or something. Yeah,
I'd hope so. But I think he needs to. But I think we should have at least see a big part of Raw's story, or whatever, if he's still on Raw or SmackDown or wherever he ends up being, a big part of his story throughout the year, or a big part of just all WWE stories this year, is he is trying to win that world title desperately. And whether he does get it between now and the end of the year, or whether they just continue to tell the story with the idea of just like actually pulling the trigger in 2025 or at WrestleMania next year. But I think that the whole story should be about him pursuing the title, and you basically just rehash or just do an updated version of his story to win the NXT Championship back in like 2014, whenever that was. You just tell it on the main roster instead, and I think that, as I say, he's one of the most popular guys on the whole roster, so the crowd will clearly gravitate towards it. But yeah, I'm hoping that this year would be his title winning year, but we'll see. I mean, I'm not 100% locked in to go with him as my choice, but out of the ones that I'd want to see be the breakout star of the year, that would be Sami Zayn would be the main choice for me.
So some of the names that I had on my list are obviously ones we just talked about. Bron Breakker, Trick Williams is going to have a good year. By proxy, Carmelo Hayes, of course, another name to bring up. Josh Briggs, et cetera, et cetera. I do think that we're going to see, I know Calvin's going to disagree with me. I do think that we're going to see some good things from Lexis King this year, possibly NXT champion. I think Ilya Dragunov is going to, when he loses that title, move up to the main roster. Whether he becomes a part of Imperium, whether he does his own thing separately, whether he is pushed strong from the very start, or he has to like work his way up through the mid card or something. I think we're going to get some good stuff from him. I think there's a good chance, as far as on the NXT side of things, that they give something solid. I don't know what to like Charlie Dempsey, whether it's he becomes the Heritage Cup champion, or he wins the North American title, or I don't know, something. I feel like they really got to like try to ignite that spark with Dempsey. Main roster people, of course, there's, you got to watch out for CM Punk. You got to watch out for Damian Priest possibly having a really good year. Grayson Waller could end up having a good year. LA Knight, I don't think is going to have as crazy of a year as a lot of other people think that he will, but I'm hoping that that's the case. I think there's a really good chance that we have Gunther becoming world champion this year. So I don't know if that's really, if you count that for like the one to watch, is like Gunther's going to continue to kick ass. So, whatever. It's hard not to say Cody Rhodes. I'm still crossing my fingers that The Rock fights Roman at Elimination Chamber and that Cody wins the title at WrestleMania. And part of that's because it's been teased by Boozer on Twitter, and there's something about this idea that, like, I forget who I had come across saying this. Might have been Boozer. Might have been something else. But this idea that they've been teasing the bloodline, not necessarily like splitting, but like this whole idea that Jimmy Uso wants to be the heir to the table will transition over to Solo. And that, do you guys remember hearing a thing about the idea that Roman would win the title, or that Roman would retain the title up until Mania this year, drop it, and then take a considerable amount of time off? Remember hearing about that?
I know that's what we all thought fucking last year. I don't know if I heard it for 2024 in particular.
I had heard that there was even a chance that he would retire, but more so I heard that he would just be taking time off, and that Solo would become like the de facto interim head of the table.
Well, I mean, they're literally setting up for it on TV now.
Right.
But you know they're setting up for it because Solo gets the Brock treatment.
And he beat John Cena. So it's like, that should be for something. So I think I'm going to go, despite how I think that it's an overrated kind of, like, everybody's like, oh, you know, he's going to be like a future 20th-time champion and all this other kind of stuff. I think I'm going to go Solo Sikoa is my one to watch for this year.
But I feel like a lot of people feel like Solo fell off 2023. Like, I think we had more in mind for Solo.
Oh, I'm on the more like disappointed front. I think that he lost a lot of momentum, but I think that WWE is going to treat it as if that's not the case.
I think, and I'm going to say this again, and I'll talk about it again on the hot tags, don't care. The Rock coming back was one of those things for me that was like, oh man, everybody is just so far away from what they think they're doing. And then this guy comes in and literally says nursery rhymes and gets monster reactions. And what's worse is everybody thinks they're doing their best impression of The Rock. A lot of these baby faces, that's what they go for. And I'm just ready to see something fresh. Like, yes, free agency is going to run wild this year, which is super cool. But I don't just want to see, hey, Aleister Black is back. Hey, this guy is back. I want to see new people step up. You know, like when The Shield first showed up.
Yeah.
All those years ago. Like when you first started watching NXT and it was like, oh, my eyes are open. There's all these new people. I want to see change.
It's a shame that you might disagree. In my mind, it's a shame that it's not like the one to watch for WWE this year is MJF because he's going to come over and it's going to do whatever. Like,
Oh, I made the joke when they took him off the roster page. I made the joke on Twitter. If it was even remotely possible, he'd be opening up Raw if they had him. Just because it'd be like, oh my God, MJF is here. And even though MJF, as we've now seen on multiple occasions, the AEW audience, the WWE audience are different audiences. But I think it would still be a big deal. And it would be a lot of fun. But of course, that's not happening.
Alrighty, any other last thoughts you guys got?
I definitely expect Ricky Starks to go to WWE. I definitely expect Mercedes Moné to be somewhere where we can finally watch her weekly after 2 years. There was a report that Sean just put out while we were doing this that there's a good chance, barring something crazy, that Naomi is going back to WWE. And that's kind of fun. I guess we'll see where that goes. And I'll be the one, just as a joke. Not a joke, but I'll be the one to lay down this sword. I want to know if they do anything with Ava this year.
Your optimism for Ava is going to continue until you got no more breath left for it, right?
That's right.
Hey, maybe she'll get an upgrade on her job and she'll be officially the administrative assistant of Shawn Michaels or something.
Just like thinking, just like looking slightly outside of both WWE and AEW for a little bit. I think that, well, I'm hopeful. I don't know whether this will happen, but I'm hopeful this year Zack Sabre Jr. wins the IWGP World Championship, or the New Japan World Championship. I can't remember how they actually term it this year, but yeah, I think I hope, or at least he gets pushed to a higher standard than just being like your perennial TV champion for New Japan. I think that just looking at Impact Wrestling and some of the new signings they've made, I think that Leon Slater is quite an interesting signing, and I think that he'll be like a big star for their X division this year, and maybe someone that's worth watching. And I guess we'll have to just wait and see who still this big signing is that they've been teasing. And that might be like the big name that they have for 2024.
I still think Ziggler could be a really fun addition to TNA, and it's much better than him just going to AEW.
What are you currently thinking it's going to be, Callum?
Ziggler makes a lot of sense because now we're almost pretty certain that
with Mercedes seemingly going to AEW.
Yeah. I don't see like a big current free agent that has credibility. I mean, the other choice is Ali, just because he's a big deal. But Ali seems that he wants to move around a lot of places. But I guess that wouldn't prevent him from being signed with TNA. It's not like TNA are doing live shows every week, so maybe that could be a big one for him. I mean, he's generating a lot of buzz with his now being like totally a free agent, so that could be interesting. Just if there's like anybody else that stands out.
By the way, Elias is now
Elijah.
Yeah. That's that was the most like, okay, you're just doing the thing. Oh, fine, like you're just gonna do the thing. Okay,
I feel sorry for the I feel sorry for the Elijah wrestler that retweeted him saying,
that was funny. Hello, I am Elias. Mansoor.
Him and Masai
have been having a killer time, just having fun, and then Mansoor cut this promo and released it online, and it made you go, oh fuck, if they would have just told that story, I could have maybe gotten behind him winning a title in Saudi Arabia.
What was this promo? I didn't hear about that.
He told a really good story about how, he told his dad he wanted to be a wrestler when he was younger, and his dad said, no, that's not for people like us, because his dad went to a wrestling show and saw some guy portrayed as the Sheik, the stereotypical Sheik, and that after the show, his dad went up to the guy and was like, hey, buddy, why are you representing our people this way? And the guy goes, buddy, I'm Italian. I'm from Pensacola. This is just a show. So that his dad was of the belief that you can only really portray the evil Sheik stereotype, and that when he got to beat Cesaro, it changed everything for him, and that his dad told him, I understand now. And that he's been chasing that feeling ever since. And now he's going to go out into the world and make people understand the same way he made his father understand. I thought that was really good. I was like, yeah, that's the kind of shit we need to see.
I'd also say that and I mean, this is just like round speculation putting out there in terms of just like predictions for next year. I think that we'll see Sheamus outside of WWE.
Really?
At some point next year. Yeah.
Do we see the bar outside of WWE?
No, I think that Sheamus will decide to be a big fish in a smaller pond, whether that's TNA or whether he wants to go over to New Japan. I don't think he'll go to AEW, but I think that he'll be outside WWE by the end of the year.
What about Drew while we're here?
I think Drew's re-signing.
it's not really something that's like a huge priority for me because I don't want him to. I mean, I'd be happy for him to leave and try something else, but I don't want him to go to AEW because I think that it's already too crowded at the main event level. I think that if he's looking to go to a place and be considered more of like a prominent top guy or be like one of the definitive top guys, then AEW, those positions are already filled for him. So
it's sad though because the run that he went on in 2016, like just as Cody was getting there, kind of lays even more of the groundwork for stuff like we're seeing now. So it's sad that he could have really had that run.
I think if he goes anywhere, like, you know, if he were to go to, say, TNA, it's such a step backward. Now, if he would go to New Japan and be like, yep, I'm the New Japan champion, like, I'm kicking ass and I'm the guy there, that could be kind of cool.
I would say necessarily step backwards. If you went to TNA, it'd be more of a case of I want to lend my star power to help add credibility to this company.
Yeah, I think if he does it again, it's he does the same thing as he did almost a decade ago with the caveat of, but this time I'm not looking to get re-signed. I'm just looking to help everywhere else grow.
I mean, on top of that, do we have any other like bold predictions for 2024 or any like interesting predictions for 2024 just in wrestling?
I think we're going to get a new title in WWE.
Oh, anything
we're going to get?
Some kind of a new title. I think that they're going to either merge a title or they're going to create a new one. And they're going to be like, kind of like what they did with let's get rid of the NXT women's tag titles. I think they're going to re-look at like
the WWE speed,
like having like having like the Cruiserweight Championship or some kind of gimmicky mid-card type title on the main roster. And I can see them also merging the Heritage Cup and the North American title just to be like, what's the point? Kind of. But that might be a little bit of wishful thinking on my part. I think more so like that WWE speed thing or, you know, a Cruiserweight title or something. Triple H likes those types of things. And without having him, you know, need to go through Vince as much. And now that Kevin Dunn's not in there, that's one less pro Vince person. I think we could see them just be like, we've decided midway through the year that we're going to do a tournament to crown the Cruiserweight champion or something. And then that could be a good spot for like, you know, who do you watch out for that could win something like that? It could be like, is that what you're going to do for Dragon Lee? Or is that how you give a push to somebody like Butch that you might not necessarily push to the world title level, but you want to make him a big prominent focal point on that front? See that happening.
I think we will see the announcement of NXT Japan or NXT Asia if they're doing the continent gimmick. But I think we're going to see some kind of announcement of some expansion into the Asian market. I think the partnership with All Japan and the rumors of a potential partnership with Stardom, I think we're going to start to see that global mindset take over again, where we were talking about NXT India, where we were talking about NXT Europe, which I do think will eventually start at some point this year, even if it's super late in the year. I think this is going to be the beginning of that. And another one for NXT, I think they get out of the Performance Center. I think they start running smaller venues again for TV.
I don't know whether I would want to do this like a joke one or whether I actually think this is actually serious. I think CM Punk gets suspended between now and before the end of the year.
I don't know about suspended, but injured, I would say almost guaranteed.
Oh, there's a good chance of that. So yeah,
that's the one that scares me.
In some way, in one way or another, CM Punk is written off TV for several months this year.
Also, we didn't bring her up, but AJ Lee could be one to watch for the women's division.
Royal Rumble.
Yeah, maybe popping up there.
I think also based on what we saw what certain people saw today, I think Kota Ibushi retires.
Oh yeah, that's a given. For me, it's a given. I should say. I feel like he's pushing it too hard.
Yeah,
I don't want him to retire, but I feel like that's.
I think at least I think that the people that are desperately clinging on for a Golden Lovers reunion are going to be very disappointed because both of them seem to be broken in significant ways.
I said this on Twitter. They're going to stop wrestling. They're going to open up a cat cafe. They're going to live happily ever after. They don't need to wrestle anymore. They've done enough.
All elite bed and breakfast or something.
They've done enough.
Well, if you have any other ideas of what you think people should be keeping an eye on this year, drop them in the comment section below. Tell us what you think about what our picks were and anything else that we might be, kind of checking out. Maybe there are some other ideas you have of like, I think that they're going to create a whole new, a women's intercontinental championship there this year, and that's going to be a good spot for this person, or there's going to be a huge comeback for Liv Morgan, or these people are going to be signed to this company, whatever it might be. This is one of the times to do it. So chat it up. Make sure you are subscribed. Click on that like button. Ring that notification bell. Double check if you are, on any of the other kind of platforms like Spotify and stuff. If there's some kind of like a star rating or something, give us a good rating on that. That'll help out quite a bit. And keep in mind that you should be following us on Facebook and Twitter at SmarkOutMoment. Checking out smarkoutmoment.com for all the stuff that happens over on there. Go to fanboysanonymous.com for all the Blue Brand stuff that you can find on the geek culture spectrum. And make sure you go to amangotree.com and just see all the different accounts that you can like and follow and share and favorite and subscribe to, including my stuff at Tony Mango. Make sure you're following Rob and Callum.
Yep, follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. And check out my work on Fightful. And find out it's 2024. DudeFelice.com. Coming soon? We'll see.
Love that confidence.
That's the real one to watch.
You can follow me on Twitter at WeekMost14. Check out the Power Rankings every Saturday on smarkatmoment.com, where I rank the WWE Superstars based on their previous week's performance. I'll be watching them closely to see how well they're doing or not doing, as it were. Hey. And then you can also watch how our people are doing as we head into the Fantasy League. Like, it's now heading towards the Royal Rumble. Only a couple of big shows left between now and the end of this season. So see how many points we're able to pick up and who will be standing tall at the end of WrestleMania as the Fantasy League champion for 2023-2024.
Me. It's going to be me.
Just a rush, mad rush towards the finals, right?
That's right.
All right, everybody, that's going to put us in the bag here for One to Watch 2024 edition. Thank you for checking us out. Thank you in advance for checking us out throughout all of 2024. Hopefully it's a really, really good one. If you want us to do anything in particular this year, let us know. Always hit up that Pick Your Poison tier to make sure that it happens. And all support that you give us is greatly, greatly appreciated, including just checking this episode out. So adios for now, everyone. We'll see you next time with the hot tags and talking about all this knockout week stuff that we've had, day one, and whatever happens on Dynamite tomorrow, and NXT New Year's Evil tonight.
On Thursday.
Whatever that announcement is, which, who knows what that's going to be. And it could be one of those like game-changing things, or it could be just like, we've also added another pay-per-view this year, and it's going to be in, I don't know, in Mexico. I think
I just figured it out, but we'll see.
What's your prediction then? What do you think about
WWE Speed?
The WWE Speed thing's going to be the big announcement?
That seems like the most safe thing. And it's still a major announcement if you're doing a brand new show catered specifically to social media.
Could be that. Maybe he's just like, we signed
Sign Julia. Like,
Sign Julia. Maybe it's
What
going
up,
to be,
like-
I'm coming back to the ring. I don't know, but we will watch. Maybe that's the one to watch. I don't know. Adios for now, everybody. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.